So it is definitely not the lunar whale, and I think it follows that we're not going to the moon anytime soon. No whale, no moon. I can't say I'm disappointed. This airship is, however, as most of us guess, the new 24-man raid to be released with patch 3.1 in, I'd say, about 6 weeks from now. My money is on the 29th of September, personally. So as I mentioned, the popular theory before the most recent live letter was that this would be an Allagan vessel, and honestly that could still stand. But it doesn't really look anything like what we've seen of Alec. Then again, neither did the Crystal Tower, really. For me, the nature of this monstrosity is going to lie in the name, Void Ark. And it is here that I think most of the fruitful speculation will currently be found. First, let's talk about how it might present as another Allagan-style raid, since that is still definitely on the table. One possibility ties to what we've already seen in Ethys, and particularly the fractal continuum. One of the very last projects of Allagan science was the development of synthetic void scent. It is described here as an emerging field. Well, synthesizing void scent in the first instance would require real void scent and facilities with which to safely summon and contain them. It would make sense to keep this project orbital so as to minimize the risk to citizens of Arleg, and it isn't hard to imagine that it could be fully automated as well. So we might think of this Void Ark in relation to that of Noah from Genesis, harboring various species of void scent from which their artificial Allagan counterparts might be constantly cloned. So what of the coffins we can see hanging from both the inside and the outside? Well, as morbid as it is, just as primals require ether, calling entities forth from the void, as we have experienced, generally requires corpses. The main problem with this theory is that it doesn't really do anything to explain the rest of the ship's features, the clawed and almost organic looking hull, and the neo but not quite Allagan interior. It also doesn't explain why it is appearing right now in particular. The second, and I believe more compelling Allagan possibility, takes us back to the eve of the Fourth Umbral Era. The Allagan Empire, which we know to have dominated at the very least all of Aldenard, Ilzabad, Vilbrand, and Mericidia, was completely annihilated by a series of earthquakes caused by the activation of the Crystal Tower. It is unlikely that this extinction was instantaneous. Quite possible that contingency plans were made by some citizens of Alec. The nature of the cycle of the ages was known to the Archons of the Sixth Astral Era. Perhaps there were those among the Allagans that also understood that the Umbral Era would be a natural period of ruin and thought that they could somehow wait it out. Looking below from somewhere like Ethys at that time, it would appear that nowhere on or above Hydaelyn could be spared annihilation. But there was one place that this calamity could surely not reach: the Void. So the Void Ark was built to harbour Allagan refugees in some kind of unnatural stasis and slip beyond the veil until some signal was given that it was safe to return, a signal such as the activation of Ethys. The function of the coffins in this scenario might be to hold enough corpses to create conditions by which the vessel might enter and or travel through the void. They might even contain the bound bodies of icons like Bahamut to serve as batteries in the relatively ether-lacking negative spaces of the void. The organic features of the hull might be the effect of prolonged exposure to the void itself, twisting the ship into a demonic visage, or it might be that the ship was designed and built using the same kind of aforementioned void scent synthesizing, that it was designed to be a kind of neo-organic void scent itself in order to safely traverse its intended environment. As for non-Allagan theories, I'm sure there is one in particular that many people are entertaining, that this is the flagship for an invasion of Hydaelyn by the Warrior of Darkness. This is quite possible, but honestly there is very little we know about the Warrior of Darkness presently, other than that they did preside in the equivalent of the Void in Final Fantasy III and are likely native to that plane in Final Fantasy XIV as well. Personally, I think that our confrontations with the Warrior of Darkness are a bit further away, and surely within the main scenario quest, primarily if not exclusively. That said, there's absolutely no reason that the Void Ark could not be a main scenario instance itself, so I guess we'll see. The last theory that I would like to entertain is, in my opinion, the least likely, but the one I personally hope for the most for reasons that should be pretty obvious. As of now, we know absolutely nothing of the second or third Umbral eras, and very little of the fifth or the first. I really hope that the Void Ark belongs to something older than Alec. As much as I adore the Allegan aesthetic and find their history fascinating, there's so much more of Eorzea's history left unexplored, and I think this would be a fantastic opportunity to tread new ground. Finally, yes, we see Kaishi in the same slide from the live letter as the internal shots of the Void Ark. I don't want to read into this too much because I'm not convinced that there is an association here, but I'm sure that some people are wondering if Kaishi might be somehow the pilot or warden of this vessel. I don't personally have any theories regarding his appearance here, so if you have any of your own, I would love to hear them. And of course, any theories regarding the Void Ark itself, whether they complement my own or are wildly different, please leave your thoughts below. To anticipate some questions here, yes, I did see the lore showcase with Koji Fox. Yes, I did manage to get the vaguest and most general gist of it. And yes, I will do a video discussing what they explored in depth just as soon as I get my hands on a reliable translation, so please look forward to it. Until then, I'm Ethys, and let's all do our best to keep the hype train fueled for patch 3.1.